Right on. Well, hello everyone. I didn't think we'd have this crowded of a room, so I'm pretty excited to have this conversation today. So we're going to be talking about all things community, and specifically surrounding communities around PFPs. So we have an amazing panel here. Can we give one more clap for everyone up here? These guys are all awesome. Guys and girls are all awesome. We have a nice preset list of questions, and then we're going to have some open-ended conversations at the end. And so the first question I want to ask to the panel here is, what does community mean to you?
I'm going to start with that one. Hi, everyone. So happy to see all those friendly faces here. To us, I think community is the fact of having a safe place where everyone can gather with common interests, I guess. And that's what we are trying to build with our verse and with MadSkullz. Depending on your background, wherever you come from, wherever country you live in, you have a place where you can feel safe, where no one is judgmental, where you have that profile picture that serves as a way to recognize each and every member. And I think that's the key, trust and being able to share stuff together. Obviously with the blockchain aspects of that, which is how we gather together, and the tech aspects of that.
Totally, and I feel it's really important from the outset to distinguish the difference between community, traditionally speaking, and community in Web3. Because obviously, community in Web3 is a blend of your customers, consumers, but also the people who are invested in your project, both financially and emotionally. And it's a very specific genre of community, right? And I think you're exactly right. It's like building this common thread, this either visual or emotional identity for people to rally around and rally behind. But really, Web3 communities are unlike any community that we've seen in humanity before. I know that sounds kind of epic, but it's the truth. It's the culmination of many different elements into one thing that we call community, and it's why community building in Web3 is so complicated. It's a terrain that hasn't been explored before the last few years, and I think NFTs are, leading the charge on that. They really are. Traditional sort of ERC20 token culture and telegrams and stuff surrounding investment, that wasn't the same as community building, where you're really trying to push a product together. And lastly, I'll say that, community to me is as an essential ingredient as developing the project itself. They are part of the project as much as creating the infrastructure is, as much as the profile pictures, as much as everything. They are part of the project, and obviously without them nothing is possible, but also with them anything is possible.
Yeah, I want to touch on one thing you said too, that I think is unique about building in Web3 is, in other industries, right, you would call people customers or end users, right? And when you're building products, our space is very different because your customers, your end users, we don't call them that. We call them community members, right? And for better or for worse, if you're building a project in Web3, you're going to hear from your community members often. Way more often if you're making t-shirts, or way more often if you're making any other products, right? Like if you're making, merchandise or stuff like that, you maybe only hear from just a customer once or twice that doesn't like the shirt, or it's a bad review. But this is a significantly different, it's just a different build. And I know I heard you touch on that, and that is, I think, a very important thing to highlight.
I would say community for me is a group of people that supports you no matter what. Like every day, every morning, they come and say GM to you, for example, like on Twitter, let's say. And even if you have the worst day, they're coming to you, they're supporting you some way, and they never hate you. I think that's really important as well when we are talking about the community.
All right. Yeah, so community to me is, I believe it's like hospitality and the feeling that you emit inside. So it's like, okay, I just lost my train of thought actually. So I think it's like tribal by nature, right? So if I met you, what's your background? Like, where are you from?
Culturally?
Yeah, culturally.
So I'm from Australia.
Australia, so well, I guess it would be different. But if I spoke your language and it was like tribal, I made an attempt to become like part of your culture. It's like that tribal nature and me going, like I'm making an attempt to value you. And I think when people feel like they're valued in the community, they're willing to contribute much more. And with Web3, it's like we get to have that like nurturing, you're getting pressed all the time, you know. And as soon as you set those standards, it's the willingness to give without expecting anything in return. And I think if you give in that community and enough people do that, you have a quality community that like you feel safe, you feel vulnerable in, and you can share your values and grow in the space. And I think with Web3 being so early, it's really nice to have people where the values are set, and then it's a welcoming place where, okay, I can come and learn. And that's, to me, what the top Web3 communities are doing, and that's success.
Yeah, and I want to add one thing here too, because we were, discussing before some of these questions and how we were going to answer them. And one thing Brando had said was, community to him was family, and it was the concept that you're part of a group and you give without the expectation of receiving anything, because the people within your community will also give. And I think it reminds me actually of something that happened recently within your community. Someone sent 200 USDC to the wrong wallet. You remember this? A few days ago, right?
I think she's here.
Right?
Is she here today?
It might. I don't even know.
Kuchina.
Everyone's got a chicken face, so I don't know if they're females or males. But they ended up tracking down the person because of the NFT they had, and they got the $200 back. And like to me, that's something like my family would do, right? Like your family's never gonna like take your money from you if you make mistakes or things like that. So I do think I did like that statement of that community is somewhat in a way like family, and how you treat your family is you give to them without the expectation that you're gonna expect them something in return, right? You do it out of just being a part of a group. So I did like that. You did lose your train of thought, but I got you. As a lot of you have been a part of building communities, one question I had was, when you're building a community, what would you say are really the top 3 core pillars? Like, what are 3 things that, if you had to say this, you've got to focus on these 3 things to build a strong community, what would those be?
I'll kick this off. I mean, I think Mad and myself, we probably have a similar perspective on this. There is significant overlap between MadSkullz and Chikn, but also, we've created NFTs with sort of gamified properties, things for people to really mechanically do. So there may be some overlap here or something that resonates. But initially for me, I think like the most important thing, and our community will definitely attest to this, is transparency and accessibility. I'd probably sort of put them into the same category. As you touched on, Dom, like in Web 2, you build a company, a brand, no one bothers you, unless you just don't hear from them unless there's like a rave review or a faulty product. Like you just don't hear. You don't have that immediate feedback, and that's when I say they're part of the project itself. They're integral to the development. So that immediate feedback as soon as you put out a release or a feature, we hear from our community whether they love it, whether they hate it, and that's probably the only thing I don't think I disagree at all. But I think like on the fact that we're family, like families fight too, and like there will be disagreements in our community all the time, but the sheer fact is we treat each other with respect, like you do with a family, and you hear each other out. And I think that's been the most special thing about building this community specifically. But yeah, so transparency. I would also say, the other pillar is treating them as part of that project, as an integral component to development. And thirdly, there's actually so many. I'd say thirdly, you would have to give them something to strive towards. I know that's a roundabout way of saying utility, but that's not what I'm...
vision. You're trying to set a vision.
Exactly. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like, hey man, your NFTs get you 10% off at the Nike store, or in our case, mechanically this is what NFTs, can do. You can play the game with them or upgrade them or do this and that. But giving your community like a collective goal, I think that's pretty paramount. And it's sort of, we've said this a lot in the last few days, but birds of a feather flock together. And You give that common thesis, that common goal, and it attracts like-minded people, and that's how you sort of push forward together.
Yeah, if I totally agree on what you said. If I can add on top of that, that one of the key pillars I think in community would be communication. So I would disagree on the fact that everything is always peaceful and everything is perfect. But that's also in a bear market like we have right now, that's also what makes us wake up in the morning and keep us thriving on building stuff. Is because of the community. And having that close relation with the members of the community and that communication between us back and forth on good things, but also the bad things, the wins, the everything, is what makes us better. And I add that in a sense that's also bringing a keyword which would be humanity in that world where the ecosystem is all technical and there's the only way to bring some human feelings and emotions is through that community and exchanging together and making at the end the ecosystem grow, like Avalanche, but all the Web3 in general, and that goes through community, because right now the pain point obviously is the adoption, the acquisition, and since a lot of projects are fighting on having the best user experience and trying to have a seamless onboarding and bridging the Web 2 to the Web 3. Right now, community is the best way we have to bring new users by explaining to each another how that works, how to secure a wallet, what to do or what not to do, how not to get drugged, how, like everything around that. And that's part of it. The key point is the communication, I think, in bad moments, but in good as well. And that's really key, I guess.
Okay, thank you. I would say expectations as well, as you just said, because when you create some kind of expectations, they're waiting for something and they continue to support the project in some ways. And besides that, I would say feeling them valuable, because when you feel like, okay, I'm a part of a really cool project and I'm using this as my PFP, so it's really cool. For example, Board API Club, I don't know. It's a really cool project and I'm a part of it, so it is really cool. People will think that, okay, like I'm in a good position, I'm not selling this, etc. So it also adds some kind of utility in real life. So I would say these two things in general.
Yeah, and I would like to touch on, so with leadership, when we were forming ours, setting the right standards and the values early on, like for a few examples, it was like, hey guys, you know, like let's watch our language in here, let's be respectful with it. And then when people joined the community, what happened was people started advocating, we set the values and then the community members would check each other. And it created like this like less pressure on the leadership side once you lock those values down, depending on what you're aiming to do. I mean, there's so many different types of communities, but most of us, we don't feel like arguing. Like it's, you're going there to create, feel valued, appreciate each other. So yeah, I think leadership, and it's also like an analogy where it's, if I have a car and you sit and you get in the car and it's super clean and it smells nice and everything's nice and you have a bag of food on your lap, there's no way you're gonna eat that food when you're looking and you're like, you're gonna ask, hey, it's like, this is really clean, I don't wanna make a mess in here. But if there's garbage all over the floor and like it's a mess and you get in the car, you're just gonna automatically assume that you can just add to the mess. So I think like in a strange way, it's like that community built, like once you get in there, you'll almost become what it is or you'll leave and it's not for you and that's fine. But creating that structure early on is super important if you're aiming to scale and like, or at least curate a community that matters. So yeah, leadership and values and just being authentic as well. Like what you say is what you should be doing and your community will follow. And if you notice like big chains, and this works from chains to projects to whatever, as soon as they start saying specific things and then the results are different, the community will start to lose faith. And then that's why you see these communities switching and it's like on to the next shiny object. And people are like, what's wrong? What am I doing? Well, people don't respect it anymore because what you're saying isn't, yeah. So I think that leadership matters.
Yeah, it's a really interesting thing where it's sometimes such a challenge for founders to just like lay out their roadmap and then do it, which is I think always a funny thing. Like if you could just do that, you're ahead of like 70% of people in this space. So
I think the Chikn have a Nito on that, which is don't overpromise, overdeliver. And I think that's a great way to say that, because earlier you said about, like, you talked about transparency, and I disagree a bit on that, because you have to be transparent on the way you do things. But I'm known to leak a lot of alphas, and, and that's something that you learn with time, that you're not supposed to do too much, because after that you have all the wins. So you have to manage that as well. So that's you have to navigate with that.
Yeah, I agree there. Like, we have a couple of our full stack devs. The community knows they can pry them for a bit more information. So, you know, sometimes KFC, if he's in here, he gets, he gets a little bit loose-lipped. And it's right. Like, you have to set expectations, right? So until something is ready, it's best sometimes not to talk about it, because, you know, it can be a lot to live up to once the expectation is set. But I really love that analogy of, you know, setting the environment for people to come into, and also authenticity, because I think, like, rule number one, authenticity resonates. And we all know this, right? Like, everyone's got an idea of what they think is a cool cultural project or NFT or whatever, but just because someone says it's cool, or a bunch of influencers say it's cool, it doesn't resonate with people unless it's authentic to the people who created it. And, like, you know, for really, like, look at, NFTs are so silly. Like, we're making little pictures of chickens and stuff like this, but, like, if we're authentic about what we're doing and we believe in what we're making, it resonates with people, and it brings people together, and that's what forms that foundation of the community.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think what's cool is it limits all the barriers. So there's no race, there's nothing in between. You meet somebody else from the other community, you don't know what they look like. I've made some amazing friends in the earlier stages when, like, primarily I was on Solana before that whole run-up, and when before it wasn't even cool at all to show what you look like. So majority of people had no idea, but when we ran the community, I literally picked people to help in positions of power by just the way that they were acting in the community. If a mod came in, they're like, hey, are you offering a mod role? I'd say, yeah, sure, you can be the mod right now, be the mod for like a few days, and like, let's see how it goes. And then if they show up, then great, they end up getting a position. If not, no problem, there's no issue. But it was really, really cool that there was no prejudice. Like, it's like, because we all make our conclusions with people that we meet. So that's the power of these PFPs, where if you get the values, that PFP, that chicken is gonna resemble you and everyone. So if I see you with a chicken and I understand what your cultures are, then, and something I value, I'm instantly holding you the same way that you tried to speak the language that I'm from, like, or you know my hometown. I'm instantly gonna like you a little bit more. I like you, but like a little bit more, you know what I mean?
So the last question I have, which I think is going to be a lengthy one, but I want to make sure we save some time at the end for just open thoughts. So try to get through this one quick. This was my second year going to NFT NYC. And my first year, everything was about PFPs and utility. That was it. What does the PFP actually do? This year, there were zero talks of utility. It was all community, and it was all attention economy. And what we started seeing was that people were leveraging their communities because their communities had reach and attention, and that was valuable. What we started to see was people taking their communities and merging them with other communities to grow. And I think it's a very hard thing to do because, like you said, there's different cultural values, there's different things you may do, and it's a tricky situation. And so the question I want to ask is, if you have your community and you want to grow it by blending it and merging it with another community, like, what are some ideas you have on that? Just really quick, because I know we only have a few minutes here. You want to start, Brando?
Well,
Okay.
I was going to say, as two communities who have probably fairly successfully cross-pollinated, I think we have a decent insight on that. Like, I think you have to set the expectation, you know, that, like, as with anything in a trustless system, you've got to be careful about who you're getting into bed with, but set that expectation that, hey, like, we're walking slowly with these guys, we really like what they're doing, but also we're not in charge of what they're developing or in charge of their community or in charge of anything else. We're just saying, hey, we really like what they're up to and we support it, and we really resonate with the way that they're building out their project and their community. That, for us, has been a really good way of aligning with MadSkullz, particularly. To be honest, like, things can also go sour. Like, we've had some some terrible people, like bad actors in the space come through our community. We've had projects not succeed. This happens, you know, it's Web3. Most projects do fail, but it doesn't mean it shouldn't be attempted, and it doesn't mean it can't be successfully done. I just think you have to walk slowly, be open, and sort of, quite openly check out what each other's project is all about. And it's like you said, if you walk in speaking their language, or at least attempting to, there's going to be that mutual respect between your communities and between the teams, obviously. And yeah, there's sort of no limit to what you can build. But on the utility side of things, obviously, again, I heavily believe in utility. I just think like gaming is a large part of the future of NFTs. So we focus on utility that's very in the ecosystem and in-game, as opposed to sort of brand alignments outside of Web3 and stuff like that. Not dissing on that at all. I think it's fantastic. But yeah, for us, it's like we can be more in control of what our players can achieve with these NFTs in Web3, like right now, today. But it's a hard thing to do, and it's a hard thing to do successfully.
And I totally agree, obviously, on what you say. And on the utility part, I agree also, because we are building utility with that, so we're not just only a PFP. But I think it's important to say that the utility has to serve the community itself. What really matters, for example, in MadSkullz, in our project, whatever we are building, we are building mini games, we are building learning mechanics and stuff. What really matters is the time of the people in the community. We don't have to be huge in number, we have to be big in quality. So we don't have the numbers of Ethereum, for example, but everyone is coming as he is, or as she is, and bringing a stone to the ecosystem. And we are all together trying to build something which is bigger than us, supposedly. So me, as the CEO of the project, I'm not working for the project itself. I'm working to grow the community and for everyone to have that safe space, which is represented obviously by the art itself, which is the PFP. And a shout out to Riza, who is an amazing artist behind the MadSkullz. But yeah, you don't have really to have utility on top of it, but that's a way to bridge people and to bring people in. And obviously with Avalanche, that's the easy way, because the blockchain is great enough to be able to have with the smart contracts different ways to imagine, to create, to innovate, and the utility is endless with the imagination.
And I want to, because we are running on time here, and I want to give everyone a couple minutes to just speak their mind. Let's start at the end. Do you have any just closing thoughts, closing ideas on today, or anything you want to leave the audience with?
It was great talking about communities. I think it's the most important pillar in NFTs. So yeah, it was great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Just work our way down.
Yeah. So yeah, like just a key like philosophy that to me it's always serving over pleasing. And when you're doing a community and you're interested in something, in order to stay authentic, in order to not burn out, it has to be something you truly like feel and you appreciate. It's like when you try to fake something that it's not going to work out. So like pleasing over, and you'll notice a lot of communities, they run out of ideas, or they'll lose faith in what they're doing, and they'll be like, hey, what do you guys want? They'll ask the community what they want. The community has no idea what they want. They're going to tell you what they want, you're going to do it, and then they're still going to be unhappy. Like the way I look at it is, most of us don't know what we want. Like even I know what I don't want, and every day I get older, I learn more about what I don't want, but who knows? So I think it's like, just do things that feel right, and you get that fulfillment as well, and people can feel it. So yeah, it's like with the community, it's like when you have that level of confidence, it just like it trajects out to everybody, and they can feel it too, and it becomes contagious. So I feel like if you're on that path and you're getting those results, just keep going. Of course, yeah, you'll learn. So that's what we did. We have a project coming out soon. We literally flew to Japan to do it, just to embody this like feeling. I know it sounds strange, but like everything is like, even the art, the PFP, you have to feel it. Like there's an emotional connection. Even with creating the traits, if you create with the expectations like, okay, we're gonna have, our target market are gonna be people that like ice baths, like Wim Hof method. Like I love that. I go in an ice bath every day. So, okay, does the crowd have that? Can we do a freezing trait? Can we do something really interesting and put together like maybe a bunch of people that are interested in the same things? And then if you create the community, you can have sub-communities that form out of this umbrella of values that you create. So I think it's interesting to think like that. And if you're always in a state of serving, and also like the confidence of like the chain, like we're all part of AVAX here. I came from Solana, and in Solana, what I noticed is when things were doing really well, nobody talked about other chains. Everyone was just so happy to be there and create and do what they're aiming to do. And I think being at this summit and the value that was provided here, it was incredible. Like I was just like, I'm blown away. It's my first summit. And I think if everybody understands we're all on the same mission, whether it's DeFi or NFTs and we all start to like commingle, it'll only make things better for the chain. So we have a video to show since you guys are here, and there's gonna be a little initiative. If anybody doesn't want to be doxxed, we're gonna most likely take a Polaroid at the end, and then all you guys get whitelisted. So we're gonna show a video, and if you're interested in seeing it, and yeah, I think we'll play it now.
まもなく電車が参ります。
Oh, you can't
こ
see
の
the
世界で
subtitles.
は人間性が失われ、多くの人が自分の物語の主人公になる意思を失っています。今、このメッセージを聞いているあなたは、偉大なことを成し遂げる可能性を持っているのです。私たちはあなたが同居に到着するのをお待ちしています。
Okay, so ideally you missed the beginning of it, but the whole idea is that we all. I'm not gonna show it. It's cool.
I think that's a good way to end it. Thank you very much.
Hold on. All right. I don't know how many of you guys are okay with showing your face. You're probably not going to be able to see the face. But if you're in this picture, just message us, and we want you in the community. So, can I stand on something? I'm kind of short. You want to take this? Yeah, man. Just like go high up.
I'm kind of short. He's going to put him on his shoulders.
Yeah, this one right here. Hold on. Yeah, there you go. Bok. You got it? All right.
There he goes.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.